Welcome to Mindful Leadership, Transforming Lives, with your host, Singh. This is where leadership meets purpose, presence, and passion. In today's fast paced, high pressure world, we face a leadership crisis. Too often, teams are led by managers who lack empathy, clarity, and vision, leaving individuals uninspired, disconnected, and undervalued. But it doesn't have to be this way. Great leadership isn't born, it's built. The end game: empower your leadership, inspire the world. Every week, join me, your host Singh, as we tackle the gaps in leadership and life coaching head on, learning how mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and compassion can redefine success. This isn't just another podcast, it's a mission to fill the void left by ineffective leadership. And it's not just about leadership in business. Life coaching for leaders and new executives is at heart of this journey. Ready to rise above the noise and lead with clarity, purpose, and impact? Join a global movement dedicated to reshaping the future of leadership one mindful moment at a time. Let's begin.
Welcome back to another episode of Mindful Leadership Podcast on the Transformation Network. The podcast where we turn stress into strategy, overthinking into clarity, and overwhelm into momentum. I'm your host, Singh, the leadership coach who knows that growth does not happen through burnout, it happens through alignment. So let's begin. Let's start with a quick question. How many times have you been in a meeting where someone throws out a genius idea and it's like crickets? Then 5 minutes later, someone else repeats that exact same thing. And suddenly it is a revolutionary breakthrough. And you are sitting there thinking, wait, didn't we just hear this? That, my friends, is what happens when diversity shows up without inclusion. It's like hosting a potluck with the most incredible food, but no one brought the plates. See, you have got all the right ingredients, but no way to bring them together. Here's the deal: diversity without inclusion is not progress, it is wasted potential. And inclusion without diversity, well, that's just an echo chamber where everyone is nodding along to the same tune. Now, neither of these builds resilience, innovation, or momentum. Today, we are going to flip the script. I'm going to show you how to combine diversity and inclusion to create a team that is not just functional but unstoppable. By the end of this episode, you will have a roadmap to unlock your team's resilience, boost innovation, and turn potential into action. But before we do that, let's get real for a second. See, I always say the data does not lie. Teams that embrace diversity and inclusion are 35% more likely to outperform their competition. Now, that is not just some feel good stat you slap on a PowerPoint slide. That is a survival edge in today's world. But here's the catch: hiring people from different backgrounds, well, that is only one step. It's like buying all the ingredients for a Michelin star meal and then forgetting how to cook. The hard part, the part that separates thriving teams from the one that implodes, is creating a culture where those voices are actually heard and valued. That is the secret sauce. Without that, you're not building a team, you're just assembling a crowd. And let's face it, a crowd might look impressive, but it is chaotic, it is directionless. Think about it this way: diversity without inclusion is just noise. Everyone is talking, but no one is listening. And inclusion without diversity, that's a broken record. The same idea over and over with no new perspective to push you forward. But when you bring them together, that is when the magic happens. You get clarity, you get adaptability, and you get resilience. And my friend, that resilience, that is the game changer. See, right now, teams are facing more challenges than ever. Now, whether it is adapting to AI, whether it is navigating hybrid work, or figuring out how to stay innovative in a world that feels like charging and changing by the second, resilience is not just a nice to have, it is a thing that keeps you in the game. I mean, seriously, look at the headlines. Companies are cutting back, entire industries are rethinking how they work, and yet the ones with diverse and inclusive teams, they are the ones finding new ways forward. They are not just surviving, they are thriving. So here's the question: are you building a team that can adapt and thrive, or you're stuck in a cycle of noise and repetition? Because if you're not paying attention to inclusion, you're leaving your biggest advantage on the table. And let me be clear, it is not about being perfect, it is about being intentional. The last three episodes, I've shared the same thing. By the end of this episode, I'm going to show you exactly how to combine diversity and inclusion to create a team that is not just functional, but unstoppable. All right. So this is time we roll up our sleeves and get tactical. Diversity and inclusion. They're not just buzzwords we throw into mission statement to support progressive. They are the cornerstones of resilience, innovation, and adaptability. They are also the areas where a lot of leaders get it wrong. So here is the $1 million question: how do you take diversity and inclusion from theory to practice? How do you make them the fuel for real resilience? Well, we have you covered today. I use something I developed called SEAT framework, SEAT. Think of this way: inclusion is not just about inviting people into the room, it is about making sure everyone has a seat at the table, a voice in the conversation, and a role in the action. Let's break it down. S is for see, as you see from your eyes. Inclusion starts with awareness. You cannot fix what you don't see. So ask yourself, who is speaking up in my meetings? Who is not speaking up in those meetings? Whose ideas are being dismissed until someone else repeats them? Don't fool yourself. This happens all the time. And the kicker is that sometimes it's not even intentional. It is like when you're at a party and one person is telling an amazing story, but they're soft spoken, and everyone is too busy refilling their plates to notice. Then someone louder jumps in the same story, and suddenly it is the highlight of the night. My friends, your job as a leader is to spot those moments. Who is being overlooked? Who is quietly bringing brilliance to the table but is not being heard? Because if you don't see the brilliance, you cannot fix it. And if you cannot fix it, you are not leading, you are just managing the chaos. The next up is E, as in engage. See, now that you are seeing the dynamics, the next is engagement. Diversity only matters if you pull it into the conversation. Engagement means actively inviting perspectives. It is not enough to say we are open to ideas. You got to show it. Let's say your brainstorming session and someone throws out an idea that is little unconventional. Instead of brushing it off, ask a follow-up question. Tell me more about it. How do you see it working? Show your team that you're not just tolerating the input, you are actually valuing it. Because here's the thing: people don't just want a seat at the table, they want to know their seat means something. And when they feel like their voice matters, they are more likely to show up, more likely to contribute, and more likely to innovate. Now, here's a lot of leaders who drop the ball in the next one, which is action, A for action. Inclusion isn't all talk, it's action. You have got to take one idea from your team and implement it fast, even if it is small, because nothing builds trust faster than follow through. It is like when you are at a restaurant and the server actually remembers your request for extra hot sauce. It's not a big thing, but it tells they were paying attention. Same with your team. If someone suggests a change in a process or a new way to tackle a product change or a project derail, don't just say that's a great idea. Do something about it, implement it, and then circle back to them and let them know their idea made an impact. This is not just about building trust, it's about creating that momentum. When your team sees their contribution lead to real action, guess what? They bring you more ideas, better ideas, and that's when magic starts to happen. And then T, tie it all back. Tie it all back to your mission. And again, another place where mistakes a lot of leaders make. They let ideas float, and when ideas float, they lose meaning. But when you tie those ideas back to the organization's mission, your team's purpose, you create a purpose. See, people with bigger picture, they realize what I said mattered and it moved us forward. Let's say your team came up with a new process that reduces waste in your supply chain. One, you can just say, great job, team. But if you say, this ties directly to our mission of sustainability because your input, we are not just saving money, we are making real impact. See, when people see their work contributing to something bigger, they don't just feel included, they feel essential. And that is how you build a resilient team. Because resilience is not just about bouncing back from challenges, it's about knowing why you are bouncing back in the first place. So here is the big question. When was the last time your team felt like everyone had a voice? Or when some people left standing on the sidelines? That answer tells you everything you need to know about your inclusion gap. Resilience comes from adaptability. Adaptability comes from listening to diverse voices. So if you're not doing the SEAT program, you're not building resilience, you're not creating team, you're just decorating buzzwords. Let's take a quick breather. And by breather, I mean, let's laugh it out at a painful, relatable situation, right? Ponder this. You're hosting a potluck, lasagnas, biryanis, sushi rolls. Yes, Aunt Mama's famous mac and cheese, whatever you want. It's a spread so good, you would think it was catered. But then disaster strikes. You realize nobody brought plates. Now you're watching people awkwardly scoop hummus into napkins and trying to balance mac and cheese on the back of that serving spoon. The food is amazing, but no one can enjoy it because there's no structure, no plates, no coordination, just chaos. That's exactly what diversity without inclusion looks like. You have got all the right ingredients, but without a way to bring it together. It is just wasted potential and a little messy. So here's the deal. As a leader, our job is not just to invite people to the table, we are also the host. We have got to make sure there are plates, seats, and a way for everyone to contribute. Inclusion is not just about saying, hey, you are invited. It's about creating the structure that makes people feel like they belong and that their voices matter. Because if they don't, well, you're hosting a potluck where everyone leaves hungry and frustrated. All right, next session, let's get practical. It's one thing to talk about diversity and inclusion, but let's face it, you don't build a thriving team just talking about it. You've got to take action. So I'm about to give you a simple exercise you can take straight into your next team meetings. It's not complicated. It won't take hours, and you don't need PhD in leadership to pull it off. As always, another simple micro practices. And when you become mindful, just become observer and see what you're not doing. So let's dive in. Step one, ask your team a simple question. What is one thing we can do to make this team more inclusive? See, it is a powerful question because it opens the floor to ideas, perspectives, and realities you might not even be aware as a leader. And here's the king, don't overthink. You're not writing a manifesto, you're starting a conversation. Step two, listen, become the observer. Really listen. Don't defend, don't explain. And for the love of all things good, don't jump in with your solutions. I know how hard that can be because as leaders, we are wired to solve problems, aren't we? No, just become the observer, just listen. But this time, resist that urge. Let your team's voice fill the space. Let's say someone suggests rotating who runs weekly meetings on everyone's voice gets heard. Don't immediately think, oh, that'll never work. Or, but I'm the leader, I should be. No, just listen, absorb and take in. And then step three, take one actionable idea and implement it within a week. Within a week, not next quarter, not next month, not, no, within this week. Why? Because nothing says that your voice matters more than acting on that, what someone said. It does not have to be a massive overhaul. Maybe it is as simple as setting aside 5 minutes in next meeting for quieter team members to share their thoughts. But the follow through, that is what builds trust. And trust is the foundation of all inclusion. Now, let me give you a little gut check. If you ask this question, what is one thing we can do to make this team more inclusive? And nobody speaks up, that's not a team problem. That is a leadership problem. That is a you problem. That is a I problem. It means one of two things. Either your team does not feel safe enough to share, or they don't believe you will actually do anything with their input. Either way, my friend, the ball is in your court. That is the meaning of becoming the observer when you talk about mindful micro practices. So here is what you do, start smaller. If the group dynamic feels too intimidating, take it one on one. Have a quiet conversation with a team member and ask, hey, how can we make this better environment for everyone? Sometimes the most impactful feedback comes in those personal, private, and quiet moments where people feel safe enough to open up. And remember, this is not checkbox, it's a habit. And like any good habit, it takes time and consistency to build. You're not going to flip a switch and magically create an inclusive culture overnight. But remember what I have been saying. Every small intentional action you take moment by moment, day by day, week by week adds up and becomes your personal leadership flywheel. All right. On that note, that inclusion is a habit, not a checkbox. It is not something you achieve and you move on from. It's not like crossing off a to do list item, right? Inclusion is an ongoing practice. It is the built in the day to day moments, the way you listen, the way you act, the way you make people feel like they belong. And habits create culture. If you want a culture of inclusion, you have to got to practice it every single day, every single moment, every single conversation, even if it is a quiet, non-verbal conversation. It is in the way you ask questions, the way you follow through, and the way you make sure everyone has not just a seat at the table, but a voice and a meaningful voice in the conversation. So here's my challenge for you. Take this exercise into your next meeting and ask the question, listen without judgment, and act on one idea. If no one speaks up, start smaller, build trust one conversation at a time, because inclusion is not about perfection, it's about progress. The real magic, when inclusion becomes a habit, it transforms cultures. You're not just leading a team, you're building something bigger, a space where people feel valued, heard, and empowered to bring their best. I'm telling you from a personal experience of 25 years in corporate America. That's how I have built some of the most resonant teams. Let's bring this home. What is a diverse team without inclusion? That's like having a car with a full tank of gas but no engine. It looks great on paper, but it's not going anywhere. You're just sitting there, revving the engine that does not exist, wondering why you are stuck. But when you combine diversity with inclusion, that's when the magic happens. That's when you unlock resilience, innovation, and long term success. And it is finally putting the engine in the car, turning the key, and realizing you're not just moving, you're flying past your competitions. Inclusions does not happen by accident. It is intentional, it is invisible, and it is actionable. Your job as a leader for that intentional, visible, and actionable thing is just to invite people to the table and make sure they've got a voice, a plate, and an actual role in the bigger picture. So here's my challenge for you. In your next meeting, your next conversation, or even your next decision as a leader, ask yourself, am I just filling the seats or am I making space for voice to be heard? Because when you do, you're not just building a stronger team, you're building something bigger. You're building trust, you're building momentum, you're building a legacy. And if that does not get you fired up, I don't know what will. If this episode resonates, if it hit you right now, then there's your next step. Don't let it just sit in the that's great idea, I'll think about it bucket. Let's turn it into action. I want to personally invite you to my inclusive leadership webinar. This is not one of those fluffy feel good sessions where we toss around buzzwords like confetti and that everybody leaves inspired but unchanged. No, this is the real deal. We are going to dig deep, get tactical, and show you to make inclusive competitive edge for your team and your organization. How we do it? We cover the purpose factor assessment, a mirror for your leadership style. It shows you where you're strong and where you've got blind spots. Because let's be honest, all of us have them, especially when it comes to inclusion. The assessment does not just reveal the gaps, it gives you a roadmap to address them so you can lead with more clarity and confidence. Second, you will see the SEAT framework in action. You have been listening, you already know how much I love this framework, but in webinar, I'll take it deeper. I'll show you how to use the framework to ensure every voice in the room gets heard, every idea gets valued, and every action ties back to the bigger mission. This is not theory, it is a plug and play model you can start applying immediately. And as a leader, and when I say leader, even if you are the person who can decide who gets the last pizza in the family, you are a leader. Congratulations, I promoted you. And if you don't think you are a leader, my question to you, my humble question to you, who is leading you? Here's the thing, inclusion does not always come from big dramatic gestures. It's built through small, consistent actions. The way you run a meeting, who you ask for input, how you follow up on your ideas. In those webinars, I provide you practical shifts that turn a team from meh to wow without adding more to your plate as a leader. And finally, If inclusion does not connect to your mission, it is just another checkbox. You will learn how to weave so deeply into your culture that it stops feeling like an initiative and starts feeling like second nature. That's when inclusion stops being a policy and start being a performance driver. So if you're ready to stop treating inclusion as a nice to have and start making it your edge, join me in my webinar. The link is in the show notes. Now, look, I know you're busy. We are all busy, but here's the truth. If you don't make time to build an inclusive culture, you're not going to spend time in nurturing the growth. But I can guarantee you, you will spend more time cleaning up the mess that comes from not having one. Think about it. How much time do you waste with micro communications? How much time do you waste in miscommunication? How much time you waste in disengagement or turnover? How much money is lost when your team is not innovating because they're stuck in an echo chamber? An inclusive culture is not just the right thing to do, it is a smart thing to do. It is a thing that separates good leaders from great ones. And honestly, it's not as hard as you think. It's about progress, not perfection. It's about showing your team that you are invested in them, not just as an employee, but as human. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just listen to this podcast and move on. Click the link in the show notes and join the webinar. Even if you're thinking, I don't have time, trust me, you don't have time not to do this. And if you're still on the fence, let me leave you with this. Leadership is not about being perfect, it's about being willing to learn, to grow, and to show up for your team in the ways that actually matters. This is your chance to do that. I'm your host saying you're listening to Mindful Leadership on the Transformation Network. So, what it is going to be? Are you just going to sit with ideation of inclusion, or are you going to stand up and make it real? Your choice is yours. But I'll tell you this, your team is watching. Your legacy starts today, and let's make it a great one. Lead loud, lead proud. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching Mindful Leadership Transforming Lives. With me, your host, Singh. We are honored to have you join us on this journey to explore the transformative power of mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and authentic leadership. Tune in every week on transformationtalkradio.com at noon Pacific on Tuesdays, where we will continue to explore how mindful leadership can create a ripple effect of positive changes in your life and lives of those you influence. This show is dedicated to helping you lead with purpose, presence, and passion. Whether you're navigating the complexities of business, building strong connection with your team, or striving to make a meaningful impact in the world around you. To learn more about the show, access additional resources, or dive deeper, visit singpowerupcoach.com. Remember, leadership isn't just about what you do, it's about who you are. Let's continue to transform lives together, one mindful moment at a time. See you next week.